Yo, there's been a lot going on the last few days involving Shannon Sharp. It's all over the news. We've all heard various accusations and seen text messages and more audio to be heard. But don't just listen to me, listen for yourself.
You're coming to LA tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, I don't know why you want to go out.
Don't worry about it.
Well,
Okay, what?
well, I'm not really interested in getting choked, so I guess we're going.
I might choke you in public. Big black guy chokes small white woman.
You're coming to LA tomorrow?
Like I said in the video that I made about the possibility of Shannon Sharp being in hot water a couple of days ago. And towards the end of the video, I said this looks very bad. And that's because I wanted to give this man the benefit of the doubt. I know as well as anybody knows the era that we live in as far as, masculinity and men being attacked constantly over and over. But that does not mean that this complaint is not a legitimate one. This does not look good, like I said. Now there's multiple recordings out, and then Shannon Sharp gets on a panel. He puts out a video again explaining it away. And I said to myself, why don't this dude just shut his mouth? You pay lawyers for a reason. That's what you paid him for. Keep on talking, and the more he opens his mouth, the more guilty he sounds. Now, regardless of the checkered past of, the lawyer that the alleged victim has, Bisbee, regardless of all that, two things can be true at the same time. Maybe at some points in the past, he has cast his reel out in the water to see what kind of big fish he can catch to fatten up his career. Because we live in a capitalistic society. It's all about the money anyway. So that's not impossible. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that this lady is lying. And you can also stir in, it doesn't mean that she didn't know about Shannon Sharp eventually signing a podcast deal for his shows totaling $100 million. All of these things can be true at the same time. But the problem that Shannon is going to have is there's multiple recordings out of her saying, she didn't want that. Even if it started out consensual and you're into all these kinkazoid type things, just the kink meter is off. This is what you look for. And maybe in the beginning she was into it too. But as soon as a woman says, no, I don't want to, I'm not into this. Hey man, not only do you have to lay off and leave that alone, but if there is any small morsel of a chance that, the fleece is taking place. I mean, it sounds like you've been dealing with her like a year and a half, between 1 to 2 years. You should have known, you should have been able to recognize the finesse if there was one around the corner. If she's talking to you different, things of that nature. But if she was, then you would have said that in the message that you put out, that video you put out, explaining yourself as you will. You would have said it then. That the audio doesn't sound right, and if you notice, there's some jump cuts in there, and content creators know what jump cuts are, but you didn't mention any of that. So that leads one to believe that, that was a legitimate phone conversation, is on tape, and that's probably why allegedly you offered to settle for at least 10 milli. Now, myself, my personal opinion, if I didn't do anything, if I'm not settling shit, see you in court. And I never understood that people with money trying to settle out of court, and no matter what the reasoning is, they say, well, I don't want to be spending time going in and out of court. It's going to drag on for years and years. All of these things might be true. That might be your reasoning for doing it. I never understood that. Like, I'm not the type of person that's going to just let this lay out there like that. And as soon as you do that, you're almost admitting guilt, in my opinion. And a lot of people, they have different reasonings. Like, well, that's not why I did it. Well, that looks exactly why you did it. I'm not finna do that. And then the way Stephen A. Smith looked on his podcast, and some people out there want to talk about, this ain't no true friend. With friends like that, you don't need no enemies. And Shannon should feel like he's been stabbed in the back. Shannon stabbed himself in the back. First of all, you are on a cusp. It's been a long time since you have not been a multimillionaire. So you would think by now you would know how to move and maneuver. You know that there's a lot of these women are literally great white sharks. They see money. It is the equivalent of blood dripping in the water. By now, you should be able to recognize the signals and the signs to keep yourselves out of those situations. But seemingly, you just did the dummy on this. Like you had a perpetual brain fart. And it continued over. And if it was at any point in time that woman was rocking with this no more, you should have noticed the switch up right there. Like, oh, okay, I might need to slide away from her. But nah, you want to keep on doing it because there's a lot of people, they into this freaky deaky resistance, this sexual assault. Let's pretend, let's role play this and that. Even if some of this was that, there's still, when y'all communicate, some people have safe words and some people, it's like when the women say no, hey, all right, we done. But it seemed like Shannon didn't take no for an answer. That's what it sounded like based on what's out there right now. And as far as Stephen A. not being a real friend, this and that, there's a reason why Stephen A. is distancing himself, because I guarantee you, he is privy to a lot more information than we are. We are on the outside looking in. Even in these individual podcast spaces, we are on the outside looking in with the rest of the fans, with the rest of the world who are actually following this story. I'm pretty sure Stephen A. has heard a little more information than we have. And because of the legal ramifications, he's not allowed to expound on that too much. So when he did his video, and you can clearly see he's distancing himself from Shannon Sharp, because see, Shannon Sharp was on the verge of signing a $100 million deal because of his podcast. Stephen A. Smith has already signed a $100 million deal with ESPN. He's not trying to mess that up for nobody. And one thing we need to address right here, and I'm talking to black people in the black community, I don't want to hear that not being a real friend and all that nonsense. With friends like this, you don't need any enemies. So wait a minute. So if he wants to fumble the bag out the window, am I to fumble my bag out the window too? Because he's being an idiot? Black people need to stop letting other black people bring them down. If this nigga want to crash out in a major way, you need to step to the side and let that man do it. He's obviously not listening to anybody. I'm pretty sure people have pulled him to the side before, like, hey man, you kind of moving kind of crazy, Unc. Man, you need to slow down, bruh. Pretty sure people has come to him like that. And did he listen? It sure looks like he did not. So all that, Stephen A. is not a real friend, this and that. Stephen A. don't know that. He don't owe that nigga nothing. He recruited him. He pulled him over to ESPN, gave him even more exposure, which was creating, Shannon Sharp was able to create his own ecosystem through ESPN. He already had a following. ESPN just the following was on steroids with ESPN, with Shannon being on there. Because now that ecosystem funnels fans back to his podcast. Now they're curious. They want to see what it's about. And he has single-handedly destroyed his own ecosystem that he had built in. It was perfection the way he did it too. The way he came like a hurricane. All you have to do was sit his ass down somewhere. And as much as some of you dudes don't like Jason Whitlock, I tell you one thing. He would also be privy to more information than we are, especially with whatever went on at CBS. Supposedly, Shannon Sharp's reputation over there wasn't that great. And it falls kind of in the line with a pattern that has followed him wherever he's went. So at some point, when do we stop pointing the finger outward and point the thumb inward? This is what Shannon used to always say. You listen to how he chastised Ocho Cinco because he was late for their podcast one night. And Chad was like, man, hold up. I'm a grown ass man. I know things happen and, I was late. And I'm paraphrasing, but I saw the video. Chad wasn't rocking with that. Like, man, I'm a grown ass man. Who the fuck you think you talking to? And I understood that at that moment, because it's like, yo, we are, all these people walking around and talk, whether it's mainstream media or this new media space, this podcast space, YouTube, whatever. Ain't nobody walking around and not having through no stones or not having did nothing that's crazy. So talking trash about Stephen A. Smith doing the right thing, stepping back from somebody who's basically destroying themselves. Why should Stephen A. stand there and catch the shrapnel because Shannon Sharp doing some dumb shit? If Shannon Sharp want to throw away his career, his self-sabotage his businesses and all that, then Stephen A. Smith is right to distance himself from Shannon Sharp. When it comes to situations like this, Stephen A. Smith don't owe that man nothing. He helped him out, brought him into ESPN, which only boosted Shannon Sharp's businesses, side businesses anyway. It benefited him, and he basically threw it all away over some box, basically. And if this Michael Busby or whatever his name is has more audio, video, because we don't really know, I don't think we know exactly when, she started, the victim, the alleged victim, we're going to keep saying that until it's said and done, when she really was like, nah, I'm not feeling this no more. I don't want this no more. And then Shannon just kept pursuing, and, when did she decide to charge him and stuff like that. So if it started out consensual and now she's charging you, that means something changed. And now it's strictly transactional. So if it's strictly transactional, then even when it's not transactional, she says, no, no, nigga. And that audio does not help you at all. Especially, you obviously, even if there was some setup going on there, you didn't even have enough intelligence to be like, we'll talk about this in person. I don't want to talk on the phone. Why are you talking like that? You sound different. I mean, something you probably didn't recognize, because there's a good chance that you like the debaucherous interactions with this woman. That might be what attracted you to her. So you just stop paying attention to any and all signs, if there were any, and there probably wasn't any. Like I said a few days ago, this looks bad, and now it looks even worse. For you, Shannon. It looks worse for you.
You're coming to LA tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why you want to go out.
Don't worry about it, Daddy.
Well,
Okay,
well, I'm not really interested in getting choked, so I guess we're going.
I might choke you in public. Big black guy chokes small white woman.
And then to make that last comment just so flippantly, knowing we live in America, knowing the history of this country and how that can easily be perceived, even when you don't actually say it, there's a lot of people behind the scenes on the sideline that be thinking it anyway, especially when they see a black man with a white woman. There's a lot of people that don't like that certain perception. And then you have the added bonus on top of that she was 19 years old, around 19, 20-ish. So people don't like that. You're about 55, 56. So all of these things, and I just don't understand, like, if this is what you wanted to do, go to Vegas, got the Bunny Ranch. I mean, I used to stay out there. I know that for a fact, working girls, prostitution is legal. It's not my thing, but it is what it is, because you could be driving down a regular street and they just out there, hanging out at the truck stops, just out there, like all out in the open. All up and down Tropicana Avenue. They out there. You could have easily slid to Las Vegas, got you a woman, told her what you into, and then just whatever. But you would rather go to an OnlyFans girl. And I don't know this for a fact, and it wouldn't surprise me. A lot of the fans girls are working girls also. Let's just be real about it. You could have saved you a lot of embarrassment and legal, point out the one you want, just a clean getaway. Or since you in Vegas or California, I think Shannon lives in California, I'm not sure. But you out there in Cali, you can go to Vegas to the Bunny Ranch and do it like that. I mean, it's so many better options you could have did as a multi-millionaire. But you just, I don't know if it's the thrill of the risk, but you got your risk, and it's not going to be no reward at the end of this. Because so far, based on what's out there right now, it's looking very, very bad. And that might be why he was trying to settle for 10 million, at least 10 milli, before all this broke out. But his mistake, if you can call it one, was not following the same path as Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless shut his mouth. Behind the scenes, how much? Okay, let's work on that. Boom, boom, boom. Nobody would ever know. But see, even if you would have did it that way, the problem is still there. The problem is Shannon Sharp. If these type of allegations and head scratchers may have started and was going on behind the scenes at CBS before FS1 And then FS1, some rumors and thoughts that, something's going on behind the scene. Then you leave there, you go to ESPN, and now this, if trouble follows you everywhere you go, it's because it's your shadow. You are the problem. And I didn't want to point fingers a few days ago when I made a video because a lot of the stuff was still fresh. It was freshly breaking news and stuff like that. But we gotta be real about Spade. Shannon Sharp is the problem. And the problem follows him like his shadow everywhere he goes. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. You know what I'm saying? Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this audio, whatever you want to call it. This is Shy Out of Town Sports. And this transmission is over.